Great. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? We've got some fun things to share with you about the SGSO network. So welcome. My name is Tristana Perkle. I'm the director of the School Garden Support Organization Network, or the SGSO network that we call for short. And I also have one of our governance board members, Laura Thompson, here. Laura, and I'll let Laura introduce herself.
Great, thanks Tristana. Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Laura Thompson. I am the chair of our membership working group on the board. So we really work on making sure that you all are excited to join the network and know what's going on and maintain our membership. In my other hat is that I am the director of strategic alliances at Big Green. And we are a national nonprofit that helps families, communities, and schools to grow their own food.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura, and thanks for being here and helping out today. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Would love to know who you all are, and would love for you all to get to know each other. One of the main things we do at the SGSO network is to connect school garden professionals from all over the United States, but all over the country, really. I mean, all over the world, really, is what I meant to say. So please introduce yourself in the chat. Would love to know your organization or your school and your location. This is also going to be recorded, so we will be sharing that via email afterward if you have to jump early. And it will also be in our webinar library, which I will be showing you during this webinar. And then finally, we're going to have some bit of like formal presentation time just to make sure we cover all the different pieces of our network that we think you would like to know about and things that you have asked about. But we'd really like for this to be informal. So kind of during, I will be stopping and pausing to see if you all have any questions. This really is time for you to get to know the network and to answer your questions. And then at the end, we'll have very specific time to cover any questions that we haven't already covered in the presentation. And then finally, if we have time, we'd love to get your thoughts, your suggestions, your requests on how the SGSO network could support you. So just kind of be noodling on those. And if we don't cover some of those pieces, would love to know them at the end. Great. So again, what some of the things that we do with our network is connect you all to each other. So just as a little agenda here today, we're going to break you out into groups and allow you to introduce yourself and get to know each other. We're going to do an overview of the SGSO network. And just like I said, we'll do Q&A and a brainstorm on how the network can support you. Before we dive into a breakout room, I'd love to do a poll just to see kind of who's in the room. So let's start with, how long have you been a part of the SGSO network? Maybe you're brand new, you just joined in the last 3 months, and joined meaning maybe being aware of it, kind of paying attention to emails or joining a webinar, attending different various events. Maybe it's less than a year, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, or over 5 years. Just let you all fill that out. Super helpful to know who's in the room. Okay, it looks like the majority of you are brand new, so welcome. Really glad you're here, and some of you have been have joined for kind of 1 to 3 years. Cool. Next, would love to know how you learned about this webinar. We're trying to understand how we're reaching folks, and if we're reaching folks all a certain way, we'd like to kind of make sure we're reaching folks in different ways. So please let us know how you learned about this webinar, maybe from a colleague, maybe you attended the Growing School Garden Summit and learned about it there. Maybe you follow another organization like Kids Gardening, or your local organization. Maybe you're on the Google forum, or maybe you received our email blast. It would be great to know how you learned about this webinar.
Highway and fired 3 times at her with a shotgun. Miraculously, she was not hurt.
Awesome. So it looks like majority from a colleague. Some of you learned about it at the summit. Great. A nice fit or a nice breakdown from other organizations, the forum and email blast. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Let's see, how do we Stop sharing. Okay, let's go away polls. There we go. Okay, great. Well, now we're going to go into a breakout room. You'll be paired off with one other person, and I just encourage you to introduce yourself and share why are you here? What has you interested in the SGSO network? Feel free to share your name and your organization. We'll only be in breakout rooms for about like maybe 3 to 4 minutes. So, you know, relatively brief, but just wanted you to kind of get to know just someone else in your network. So I'm going to start breakout rooms. Hope you got to meet someone new and learn from each other and why you're here. Great. So now I will be passing it off to Laura to share a bit about start the overview of the network, and then I will be diving into the different offerings that we have.
Great. Well, I want to give, as Tristana said, a little bit of information of who we are at the SGSO network and also how we've evolved over time. We've been doing a lot of developing over the past year, which is really, really exciting. Tristana, if you could go to the next slide, please. So the SGSO network is an open peer-to-peer learning network with the goal of growing, sustaining, and elevating a movement for equitable garden-based education. And we provide professional and leadership development resources and platforms to connect members serving at a school, district, regional, state, or national level. And so we're really at the SGSO network working to build a movement of school garden professionals and school gardens overall. So you can see here some of our the things that we are working towards. So more school gardens, more students using and actively engaged in school gardens, more policies and commitments from institutions to incorporate school gardens into their schools and districts, and more teachers using and actively engaged in school gardens. I'm not going to go through all of our history, but you can see here a timeline of where we started back in 2012 when the idea for the network was sparked at the Farm to Cafeteria Conference in Vermont, all the way to really thinking through a strategic plan last year and hiring Tristana, our first staff member, super exciting, and bringing on new governance board members. We started with a small group of what we called kind of advisory members, and we turned into a real governance board, to now just having the first Growing School Garden Summit in Denver and bringing together this movement of folks working across the school garden space. We, through our strategic planning process, developed what you see here, which is a structure that we hope will maintain the unique and organic and emergent nature of the network, while also giving us organization and clear avenues through which everyone can get involved as they're interested. So the most important aspect of our structure are you, the members, encompassing everything we do. And we aim to solicit your feedback and ideas in a formal way on a regular basis. And we're open to your feedback at all times. So really glad for the opportunity today to connect with you all as new members, and we'll definitely have opportunities moving forward to do so as well. Then there's the smallest, most involved level of the structure on the left-hand side is our staff, which is wonderful Tristana, our staff of 1 at this point. And our current thought is to increase to 2 to 3 staff in the future, which will be coming over the next years. We have a governance board of 15 members, myself included, who provide guidance and action in achieving our strategic plan that I've referenced. And the board is more involved than an active nonprofit board in taking on key actions of the network, because we only have 1 staff member. So we're a pretty involved board in moving the network forward and all the work that goes into that. Then finally, we have what we're now calling peer learning communities, formerly called action groups, which you see here, which will be groups of members that are both self-formed, meaning groups of members can suggest and form groups themselves, as well as groups organized by the network, working on a variety of projects that are interesting to you. So we have a group of master gardeners who have come together as a peer learning community who work with school gardens, and there can be many other types of peer learning communities, really that are meant to bring together like-minded folks to discuss different ideas and share challenges and learnings with one another. You can see here our governance board members. We really represent a diverse group of folks from around the country, different states doing different work, but all really with the same vision and interest and passion for sustaining school gardens across the country. And finally, this is a little bit about our strategic plan. This is very much still in development, and we're excited to get all of your feedback as we move forward on implementing this strategic plan. So more to come, definitely, but wanted to share with you a few highlights from the strategic plan. We have these 4 different areas here: programs, really wanting to create member-valued and data-driven programming, focused on furthering the movement; membership, so really engaging members who have agency throughout the network; operations, really making sure that we have clear and organized infrastructure for the network; and sustainability. So how do we sustain our organization moving forward, whether that's key partnerships programmatically, funding partnerships, and also our communication to the general public. So just a bit about where we're going with our strategic plan. Back to you, Tristana.
Great, thanks, Laura. So now we'll kind of dive into, now that we've kind of learned a bit about the network, wanting to just spend most of our time on what does it mean for you as a member? What does it mean to be a member? What does membership include? And we kind of have these 5 main buckets. If you can network with others, gather in person, engage in virtual learning, dive into our resources, or help us co-create our SGSO network. So when we talk about networking, there's lots of different opportunities, and I'm going to kind of take the time now to jump out of my presentation and kind of share different aspects of the website. So first, we've got our forum. It's a Google forum, so you do have to have access to a Google account, whether you have a direct Gmail or you can set up a kind of a fake Gmail and connect that to your real email. But you will need that in order to join. But I don't know if any of you are on it, but it's certainly, it's one of the most engaged email lists I've certainly ever been on. I find that folks are very responsive and helpful and don't spam. So people ask very relevant questions. It's a very well kind of self-managed community. So I'm just going to show it to you. Oops, let's see if this link is going to work. Are you all able to see my screen loading up?
It looks like it's loading, yes. Yep.
Okay, great. Whoops, I'm realizing this is the wrong page. So let me go down here just to kind of show you how to get here. Great. So this is what the forum looks like. You can either log into the forum and kind of play around with it within kind of Google Groups. It's essentially a Google group if you have any experience with that. Or you can set up your settings so that it just comes to your email. You know, like each post would come to your email and would just look like a regular email. That's the way that I utilize it. I almost never log into Google Groups to make a post or respond to a post. I just receive every email as it comes through. And then respond kind of via email. So it's really nice and user-friendly in that way. And as you see, we get a variety of questions and it kind of, you know, maybe like 1 or 2 a day. So it's like a nice cadence. So, you know, recent questions have included suggestions for garden science supplies. Someone wanted a very specific garden get to know you bingo card for high schoolers, all the way up to kind of bigger, more programmatic questions like school district policies for school gardens. So I would definitely encourage checking out the forum if you haven't already. The best way to sign up is to, if you go to our website and go to membership and go to the membership page. If you scroll down to the network section, there's this join the Google Forum section that will kind of walk you through how to do that. But essentially, you'll go to the forum. It doesn't look like the same on my end because I'm already in it, but there will be a form that you fill out. It's super simple to sign up. I wanted to take a pause and see if there are any questions about the forum before I move on. Feel free to put it into the chat. Put into the chat or unmute yourself. Cool, well, I will keep moving forward. Next, we have our email blast. So we send out emails that just kind of contain key information about our network, usually about once a month. We're going to get into like kind of a more of a formal cadence, but we're just sharing things that are relevant to the SGSO network, as well as to, as you can see, some of our partner organizations or things that we feel would be relevant for kind of the whole network. So in order to sign up for that, you would go to our website, and go to the connect page. Let's see if this link works. Yes, it is. So you go to membership, down to connect, and then you'll fill out these questions to join our email list. Next, we have our peer learning communities, which this is a new, as Laura was sharing, this is a new thing that we're piloting for groups to come easily find each other kind of within similar roles or regions or topics, be very self-generated, very self-managed. We just seek to be a place for you all to find each other and to kind of create a platform for that. So I'll kind of show you just how you learn about what other peer learning communities exist. This is our peer learning community page. Again, under membership, you can go to peer learning communities. And on this list or on this page here, you'll be able to find a list of all of the currently existing peer learning communities. Right now, we have one formal one that's kind of been ongoing and established, and it's our Master Gardeners Supporting School Gardens. They meet once a month. And coming out of what we just had our Growing School Gardens Summit in April, and a big part of that was identifying folks who want to get in contact with each other. So we're actually right now in the moment helping folks to connect with each other if they were program directors of a nonprofit, or if they were all in the Northeast or all in the Pacific Northwest, connecting with each other. And if there's some leadership and some ways in which they will be continuing to meet and move forward, we will be adding to this list that you all can kind of find each other and learn how to connect with one another. But I also encourage you, if you would like a peer learning community that you don't see listed there, that you'd be interested in either leading or requesting and trying to help form, feel free to suggest that. Reach out and schedule some time with me, and we can kind of talk through that. There are a number of different ways that we can help support peer learning communities. You can utilize our platforms. You can utilize our forum to find each other, to share updates. We can announce your community to our email list of over 4,200 subscribers. That's how the Master Gardener group kind of got traction. The person who wanted to lead it reached out to me. She set up a Google form. I shared that Google form for her to be able to find other Master Gardeners. I want to say over 100 people filled out her form, and then she has a cadence of around 50 people who are on her kind of email list that join for a monthly webinar. So that's kind of an example of how another peer learning community could get started. And then as we grow our network and as we grow our staff and capacity, there might be more ways that we can support the specific groups. But otherwise, we can also, if you have any deliverables or things that you come up with, for example, the Master Gardener group is working on a toolkit that they would eventually like to share with other school gardens of how to work with Master Gardeners, and we can host that on our Promising Practices resources page. Or if you'd like to host a webinar of things that you would like to share with the network, that is something that we can do as well. But again, as always, this is something that's in kind of emergent kind of co-creation. So if you have any feedback or any thoughts or ideas of how this could be easy or helpful for you to engage in, please let us know. You can fill out this form here, or always feel free to email me, and I'll be sharing my email at the end. Any questions about peer learning communities before I move forward? Well, next, another way to engage with the SGSO network is to gather in person. That's one of the things that we do is we create gatherings for like-minded school garden professionals at national conference gatherings, so that you all can kind of find each other and network with each other while you're at other gatherings. We have an annual leadership institute that is hosted and put on by LifeLab and sponsored by Whole Kids Foundation. So this is a week-long annual institute for about 50 school garden leaders of school garden support organizations. So it's kind of specifically for nonprofit organizations that support multiple school gardens, and it's a really fantastic week. Applications for this year's institute, which will be in December of this year, will be available coming this summer. So be on the lookout for that. And then we have our Growing School Garden Summit. The Sprouts Healthy Community Foundation hosted this event, our first one, just a month ago in April. And we were a co-partner with LifeLab, kind of helping to put on this event. And it was a really wonderful special event with 400 folks. And we are looking to do another one in 2 years in 2024. And then virtual learning. That's one of the things that you can engage with us on. We've got a number of different ways that we seek to do that. We seek to have a monthly virtual gathering, kind of excluding the winter holidays in December, but a monthly gathering of some sort. So that could include a webinar where we have, anywhere from 1 to 3 presenters kind of sharing kind of more presentation, kind of learning style. We also have virtual gatherings where we bring people together on specific topics, kind of a little bit more like this, a little bit more informal. We might have breakout rooms. We might be kind of talking about and specifically dialoguing on a specific topic. And then we also have had solution sessions where we have folks who have specific school garden questions or concerns and want to kind of have help from fellow professionals on diving into those. So those are kind of a general variety, all led by your fellow school garden professionals. And I wanted to point out our webinars page, or the virtual learning section of our membership page, to really share that we're constantly building our webinar and virtual learning offerings. So you can request a webinar topic, you can present on a webinar. And so this is where you would go to either suggest those things or let us know that you have a topic that you'd like to present on, because we're not the ones speaking on those webinars. We're constantly pulling you together. I will also mention that we have we're able to pay our webinar presenters. For webinars, we offer $500 per webinar to be split amongst presenters as a way to seek to compensate you for your time. So be on the lookout. We're working on a series right now of presentations from our Growing School Garden Summit, kind of transforming some of those in-person presentations from the summit into some webinars. Great. And then, I know I wanted to point out our recording library. So all of our webinars are placed onto our website into a recording library, and you can browse by category to find different webinars within sustaining school gardens, for example, or program management. So we've been doing webinars for the last, I don't know, 5 to 6 years, almost once a month. So we really do have a nice library of different webinars. Kind of a fun integration is that we just put all of these webinars up on YouTube and created playlists all of these. So if it's a little easier for you, just kind of go into YouTube and press play and watch different playlists for all these different categories, you can do that too. Great. Get back to this. And then we have our Promising Practices resources. So these are resources that we have curated and culled together as a result of a variety of leadership institutes over the years. So one of the things that we do as a part of that annual leadership that's hosted by LifeLab and Whole Kids Foundation is to just continue to cull through all of their school garden resources that are out there and kind of pull them together in an easy to read, easy to follow format, while also bringing in case studies and examples from our partner organizations. So I'll show you some examples of those. And In 2021, we were able to do a virtual leadership institute because of COVID, and we kind of really organized them and put them all on our website. So if you head to the promising practices section of our website, you'll see resources organized in all of these different categories: equity and inclusion, funding SGSOs, relationship building, school garden staffing models, SGSO and school garden staffing models, finding sequencing lessons, and evaluation, assessment, and sharing impact. So if you dive into each of these different sections, you'll find a variety of resources related to these different topics, as well as, in some cases, some kind of case studies for how different organizations have done things. So I know some of your questions have been around, how do I get started, and how do I kind of dive into making programs more sustainable and running school gardens? This is a really great place to start. And hopefully it's a place that you can know that other school garden professionals have kind of vetted these resources. It's not just like a resource dump. It's really been thought through of what we placed on this section of our website. And then finally, we've mentioned this many times, we are in a big state of development for our organization. We're kind of becoming an official organization and building a lot of our processes. And we have always existed as kind of like a collaborative, run by, suggested by our members. And so that is still the case. So we'd invite you to co-create with us. If you head to kind of the bottom part of our membership page, you'll find that there is a forum here. If you have any ideas, any suggestions on what would be helpful, things that you would like to see, it's always so helpful for us to know. We've got like a running list of projects that we're excited to eventually implement, but it's always helpful to add to that list, or to kind of bring some of those items to the top of the list because more of you are requesting them. So definitely encourage you to either fill out this form or email me and kind of send me a message on social media, any way to let us know what you'd like. And you can also feel free to schedule some one-on-one time with me. I will put this into the chat, this link. Let's see if I can just copy it. Doesn't look like it. Go back. Feel free to just grab time on my calendar via Calendly, or you can email me, tristana@sgsonetwork.org. Actually, Laura, would you mind throwing that into the chat? That'd be super helpful. Thank you. And then many of you could have asked in your registration of how can you be more involved, or what can you do? And these are just some examples of ways in which we really invite you as members to be leaders in our network. So join the forum and post to the forum. Respond to other people's posts, sharing your ideas, thought partnership, and wisdom. You can join or start a peer learning community, diving deeper into similar topics, roles, or regions with like-minded school garden professionals. You can present on a webinar, kind of formally sharing your garden expertise and kind of getting paid to do so. You can also be involved in or apply to attend the Leadership Institute and join our summit and kind of engage in various conference gatherings. So these are just some examples, some of the ways to kind of give you kind of some more specifics. Great, so we'll kind of dive into Q&A and any other additional questions that you have. I did want to answer a question that was asked by a couple of you in your registration. I know a couple of you are from outside of the United States, which is fantastic. I'm so glad you found us and would love to be connected. Right now, our programs and our policies are kind of focusing in on the United States and what the United States needs in order to build a school garden movement. In terms of our content, we'll kind of be focusing in on that, and our policy work will be focusing in on that. But we welcome members from all over the world. We would love to learn from you. We would love for you to learn from us. Feel free to engage, join anything that you find is relevant. What we really seek to do is to say, hey, here is what we offer, and no matter if you support one school garden or if you support hundreds, and no matter where you live or where you operate, you can feel free to join if you feel that it's relevant to you. In general, what we seek to do is to provide resources and provide opportunities to connect versus kind of implementing and running programs. So just like we don't do that for schools gardens in the United States, we wouldn't be able to do that for school gardens outside the United States, but really invite you to be involved. But let me know if there are any follow-up questions specifically in relation to that. And feel free to take yourself off mute as well.
Tristana, there's a question from EC in Nigeria that a lot of our meetings and resources are local within the US, and how can she or he be more involved?
Totally. Yeah, again, that will continue to be our focus, is to be the United States. And, if you have any specific suggestions on how that could be, more translated to programs outside of the United States, more than happy to dialogue with you on that. But just know that that is just kind of our focus. And would love to connect and see, is there an opportunity to host a webinar for school garden programs across the continent of Africa? Or I know we have another member, I think, joining from Hungary. Is there an opportunity to do a webinar across the EU? We've done that with school garden programs in South America before. So yeah. Is it Andras? I see you have your hand raised. Feel free to unmute. Yes, hi, feel free to unmute.
I'm from Hungary, and I think how we networking Hungarian school gardens is not too much interesting in the US, but for example, we have a successful book written in Hungarian, which is about winter school garden activities. It is important for us because if you have a time in the school time schedule, an hour for school gardening in the autumn and in the spring and also in the winter, why to have a break for the winter? And there are many activities inside. And my question is it theoretically interesting for US teachers in an English translation? Each activities are tried, and it is a collection of activities in practice from teachers. Can it be interesting?
I think so, and I would love to ask the group too. Would you be interested in a manual? I see someone driving the car with thumbs up. A manual from Hungary on. It sounds like focusing in on winter school gardening.
Yeah, and indoor activities.
Indoor, yeah, I'm sure that it's very relevant to many of our members, and that this is a great example of things that you have learned, we would love to learn, and things that we have learned, we'd love to share with you. So yeah, we're getting some yes. And also I know that many teachers love the kind of cross-cultural, but also cross, national connections of, look, other schools in Hungary are have school gardens as well, and this is what it looks like for them. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me via email, Andras, and would love to connect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Any other questions or things I can help answer what it means to be a part of this network?
I have a quick question.
Oh, Cecilia, why don't you go ahead just because you're driving?
I'm sorry, I'm driving.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So I would really like, I teach high school, like with other high school teachers, because a lot of the work, it's, for little kids. And if there's a way that I could, have a group just of high school teachers to exchange, ideas and things like that.
That is a great idea. Is that something, Cecilia, that you feel that you'd be able to kind of take the lead on, or would it be helpful for someone else to be kind of leading that?
I don't mind taking the lead if there's enough people interested in talking about it.
Great, cool. Well, I will connect with you offline. This is a great example of what I think would be a great peer learning community. And we only want, instead of us kind of coming up with a list of peer learning communities and saying, here are the communities that you can join, really wanting it to come from you all and who needs what at what time. So I'm sure there would be other schools and teachers and nonprofits, organizations that would want to connect on high school gardening. So yeah, let's connect. We can get you set up on the forum if you're not already, and you know, give you a place for you to ask for other high school school garden professionals that would like to connect, and then we can have that as listed in our group, and you guys can kind of take it from there. Great, thank you. Alexandra, I know you had a question.
Yeah, I just had a quick one. For the Leadership Institute and the summits that you guys provide, is there funding available to help people travel there and stay, or is it expected that people/organizations pay their own way?
So the Leadership Institute, I know that they've had different models over the years where it's very much subsidized by Whole Kids Foundation. And so I'm not exactly sure where they are at this year. I think typically they have a sliding scale where based on the budget of your organization, the fee that you would pay. But I think it also depends on need. And so I think they also have a process through which they kind of identify the need of the person or the organization applying. And then for the Growing School Garden Summit, there was a scholarship process for folks to apply for scholarship if they were young professionals or professionals of color or professionals who were otherwise marginalized within the school garden community to apply for funding, and about a fourth or 100 of our attendees were on scholarship. So there are options for that. Great. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And if as more come up, please let us know. Well, I would love to spend the rest of our time here just brainstorming and getting your thoughts and ideas on you know, requests or things that you would like to see from the SGSO network. Kind of similar to what Cecilia mentioned of, you know, a group for high school professionals to kind of come together. We have a pretty small group. I wasn't sure what our size would be, and you all seem comfortable with taking yourself off mute if you'd like. So maybe we'll just stay in this group. We kind of thought we might do breakouts. Feel free to put into the chat any ideas or requests you have. Say you'd love a mentor program, or you'd love to get folks together from Hawaii, or just kind of anything that you feel like would be helpful to support you and your school garden work. Would love to know. And also feel free to raise your hand and take yourself off mute.
I think another good idea would be if we could have more like international cooperation, have like a day that we could meet with like the gentleman from Hungary, and you know, maybe get guest people from other countries that have gardening programs, so we exchange ideas and see how things work in other places. So it would be probably beneficial for us, for me at least.
Great. And I'm curious if, you know, there's lots of different ways that we could do that. I'm wondering if it would be helpful for it to be more of like a formal webinar style where we have folks from different countries presenting and sharing, or if you would like that to be a little bit more informal where you're able to kind of go into breakout rooms and just kind of be more in dialogue. Would just love to know what you think.
I guess we can start with the dialogue and see what it comes to. I think there'll be something nice to have, like maybe an international day where people come from different countries, I'm from Brazil originally, so I could find out like what happens in Brazil, who does what, and kind of present that, and we exchange ideas because we can always learn from what people do in other countries, different ways to incorporate culture into the garden and garden activities.
Cool, I love that. I love calling it International Day. That's great. Just like invite people from all over to engage.
I'm almost full, so I'm gonna mute myself.
Great, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Shall be added to the chat that mentoring opportunities would be amazing.
Cool. Shelby, if you're able to share either via the chat or unmute yourself, I would love to know in terms of what would be the ideal format for that to look like for you? Like if you're looking for a mentor or seeking to be a mentor, yeah, would love to know more specifics and what would be helpful, or maybe specific topics or areas that would be helpful, cadence, frequency, and if anyone else has any other thoughts about mentorship, I'd love that too.
Can you, I know, I think I joined a little late because I was teaching. Is somebody brought up the mentorship issue or like an idea to pair up people?
Yeah, somebody in the chat, in this request for ideas said mentorship opportunities would be amazing. So we'd just love if Shelby or anyone else had any specific ideas of, what you would like to see with that, like what would be ideal format for that. Be great.
Hi. So mainly what I was thinking of with that, I'm fairly new to my role. I'm a farm to school coordinator, and I'm in charge of all the school gardens in the county. So I would kind of like, if available in the future, if I would be able to be like paired with someone, or even like groups that are available with people that are kind of more experienced with gardening, and kind of just getting advice from them and how to be able to sustain like all of these multiple gardens.
Nice. Okay, cool. And it seems like experience in kind of gardening itself, like how to garden, or kind of the programming of the logistics of running multiple school gardens?
I would say both. That's kind of what I'm pretty interested in. Yeah, I'm still learning more. I mean, I've learned a lot within this past year, but it's always good to hear from people that have more experience.
Totally, cool. I will put a quick plug that's really helpful. Thank you. For the Kids Garden community. It's run by Kids Gardening. It is an online platform to connect anybody who gardens with kids in general. So, at school or at home or at a after school program. And they focus a lot more on how to garden, how to grow a carrot with a kid, whereas we focus more on the kind of the programming aspect, but we're in direct communication with them, and they're on our board and we're on their board. And we're actually looking into a partnership to maybe combine our different platforms, but we are definitely a place for this. Shelby is great, and also check them out as well.
So we have a couple other questions just on one is whether we have a mentoring guideline or checklist. And I said, this is a new thing for us, so we don't yet, although some of the organizations in our network may. So it'd be interesting to see. And Andras also mentioned how he's in a country next to Ukraine. So there's going to be a lot of need in regards to food insecurity, and school gardens being really important in that vein. And then Marissa shared, would it be possible to get support with something like grant writing? So that could be something that could be part of a mentorship potentially, and or resources specifically around that could be shared.
Great. These are all really great thoughts and suggestions. Andres, I love the suggestion of a mentoring guideline or checklist. It sounds like you all do a mentorship program. Would love to just like hear a little bit about that.
Yes, and I mean, not only about gardening, but how to introduce, how to connect it into the curriculum, how to deal with special needs children in that school, specialties of that school, how to connect to school gardens. Yeah. So
Cool.
I think these could be important and not country specific.
Totally. That's a good point.
For example, what is our experience that usually the school have a new school garden has maybe 5 different projects, and another project is very energy consuming, and we think that we have to connect the school garden to the existing project.
Right.
And
totally.
this is a success, and such best practice examples would be nice to collect.
Totally.
Inventoring.
Great. Yeah, that's a good point in terms of like collecting the best practices or the things that mentees and mentors talk about. Would be awesome, so that we all can learn from them as well. Great. And Marissa, yeah, specifically, I love the idea of maybe more direct help with grant writing. I'm imagining kind of more one-on-one or kind of like group help. I will definitely point you to our promising practices section. There's a section on sustainability and a specific kind of subsection on grant writing and different grants. And then also Kids Garden Community, which is that platform I just mentioned, they have a specific section on available grants, but I know you specifically talked about grant writing. So that is a good thing to mention. Kim Amon in Dallas is a lovely resource. Yes, I agree, Mindy. Great, I'm just kind of reading through the chat here. Thanks, Laura, for sharing those. And I guess I'm curious too, Marissa, when you talk about grant writing help, similar to the mentorship question, I would love to know kind of what would be most helpful to you. Would it be pairing you off with someone else, or a grant writing workshop or presentation, webinar, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Our friends at Whole Kids Foundation have resources surrounding that. Yeah, what would be the helpful format for that, if you're able to share? Feel free to put into the chat as well. Any other ideas while we're maybe waiting for Marissa to share? Great, so Marissa, you shared a workshop would be helpful, and being paired with someone who's been successful with their grant applications. Cool. You as well, EC. Great, thank you. And I know we're kind of coming up in the last 5 minutes or so. Any other ideas or requests?
Maybe you can be the United Nations FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, had a large campaign on school gardens in the 90s and early 2000s. Do you have a connection to them? Are you cooperating the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization?
No, we're not.
Mhm.
Do you
We also
have,
do not know.
okay,
I just know their literature resources, but we do not know if they're still active, if this project is still running or not.
okay, got it. No, that's good to keep our awareness on. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just writing that down.
But
If you learn of anyone to connect with, I think that would be great.
resources are available. I can send it, the link.
Great, thank you.
EC put in the chat a request is how to get schools to buy in. I think that's definitely something that a lot of school garden support organizations are always discussing and thinking about, and is probably a topic that's been discussed on the forum that Tristana was mentioning earlier as a discussion topic. And I'm assuming also, Tristana, some stuff within promising practices as well within that section of the website.
Yes, absolutely. I think you'll find resources in both of those places. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but on the forum, yes, one of the things, if you do log into the Google group itself, once you're in the forum, you can kind of search through, all of the different posts over the years. So you can kind of find them archived there. So that's why the forum is such a great kind of tool. So yes, I'm sure we've talked about it. And there might also be some webinars that kind of talk about that. So take a look at the webinars and kind of dive into those as well. And if there are more questions that you have after that, feel free to ask on the forum suggestions for how to get school buy-in, especially if I think the forum does really well too, if you have like kind of a specific question with that, if like there's a specific problem or challenge you've been working on. I think the more specific you can be, that the more suggestions you might receive. Great. Awesome. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. Really appreciate your interest and your engagement. This has been super helpful. We're going to be doing these quarterly to kind of work with new members and also with members who are just kind of wanting to get a little bit more involved. And so it's really helpful to kind of get our finger on the pulse and what things people are interested in. You'll find us on social media and on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at SGSO-Network. And then you can email me at any time, Tristana at sgsonetwork.org. I'm just going to put my email into the chat one more time. Don't hesitate to reach out. So thanks so much for joining. Thank you, Laura, for your support. And look forward to connecting with all of you and helping us to grow the school garden movement. Great. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.